From the World War II atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Williams the Conqueror's fake retreat at Hastings, the deception of the Germans before D-Day, and the legendary Trojan horse of 1184 BC, warfare has been either won or lost with strategies. A well-crafted strategy can often be the difference between victory and defeat in a conflict. In this video, we will be exploring 10 military strategies that have significantly shaped history and changed the world, ranging from ancient tactics to more modern and controversial approaches. 10. Sherman's March to the Sea, Atlanta, Georgia, November 15 21, 1864. A strategic example of total war. This march from Atlanta to Savannah by Union forces during the Civil War, led by Major General William Tecumseh Sherman, swept across the Georgia countryside, destroying bridges, tunnels, railroad tracks, cotton fields, factories, military installations, plantations, slave quarters, and more. Historians say that Sherman's motivation was to cripple the Confederacy with a minimum loss of life. His actions economically and psychologically weakened the southern states, eventually leading to the Confederate surrender. The march has also been studied by historians as a vivid example of psychological warfare. 9. The Blitzkrieg, which helped Germany hold parts of Europe in World War II, 1936-1941. Rather than a single strategic act, the Blitzkrieg, literally lightning war, was a German military doctrine during World War II. The idea, echoed much later by the failed U.S. shock and awe attacks at the start of the Iraq War, was basically to hit the enemy with everything at once. In the case of the Germans, that meant their agile tank corps and other mechanized forces working in concert with artillery and air attacks. While the term and the technique came to public attention with the Nazi invasion of Poland in 1939, the Germans used some of the tactics associated with it to help their fascist allies in Spain in 1936 during the Spanish Civil War. 8. The Trojan horse, Troy, present-day Turkey, 1184 BC. Arguably the most famous example of military deception in history is the Trojan horse, which may or may not have existed outside the chronicles of Virgil, Homer, and other bards of the ancient world. 7. Naval ambush at Salamis, Straits of Salamis, Greece, Septa 26 or 27, 480 BC. Not only was this the most important battle of the Greco-Persian Wars, it is arguably one of the most important in history. This naval engagement resulted in an unexpected victory by the vastly outnumbered Greek fleet, thanks to the strategies of its commander, Themistocles. Themistocles lured the Persians to the island of Salamis, and when they arrived and attempted to blockade the Greeks in the straits between the island and the mainland, Greek ships emerged from hidden coves and attacked. 6. Deception of the Germans. Before D-Day, July 14, 1943, June 6, 1944. In planning the invasion of Nazi-held France from the beaches of Normandy, the US, the UK, and their allies conceived a broad strategy of deception involving 5 separate operations, codenamed Operation Bodyguard. The intention was to make the Germans believe that the invasion would come later and in different locations. Operation Bodyguard was considered a success, as it delayed the deployment of larger German forces to the Western Front. The invasion led to Allied victory, which was an important step towards the defeat of the Nazis almost a year later. 5. George Washington crossing the Delaware River somewhere north of Trenton, New Jersey, 25-26, 1776. Nobody would have expected George Washington to ferry 2,400 of his troops across a river clogged with ice floes in the middle of a raging snowstorm, and on Christmas night to boot, least of all the 1,500 Hessian mercenaries serving under the British who were garrisoned at Trenton. It was a gamble, but such a desperate measure was called for, as the Continental Army's morale was low after defeats in Long Island and northern New Jersey. 4. Ambush at Teutoburg Forest, Kalkreis, present-day Bromsha, Germany, 911 AD, In the early years of the first millennium AD, with motives that remain unclear, a Roman-educated German soldier of fortune named Arminius convinced the Romans that an uprising against Rome's rule was brewing in a portion of the Germanic lands. The imperial legate Publius Quinctilius Varus led a force of some 15,000 crack soldiers into the region to put the rebellion down. As they marched along a narrow trail through the forest, barbarian forces came at them from all sides, all but annihilating them as Varus committed suicide as a result of the debacle. The defeat, one of the worst ever suffered by the Romans, had lasting effects on Central Europe, creating a permanent cultural and linguistic barrier between Germanic and Latin civilizations, and ultimately helping to create the conditions that resulted in both world wars. 3. Atomic bomb attacks on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, southwestern Japan, Augi. 6 and 9, 1945. The controversial atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945 forced Japan's unconditional surrender, ending World War II. Though justified in America's corridors of power by the fact that Japan refused to surrender, even after the Germans had put down their arms in May of 1945, the bombings prevented further loss of life and marked the beginning of the nuclear age, shaping global geopolitics with enduring consequences. 2. William the Conqueror's fake retreat at Hastings. In 1066, William the Conqueror employed a deceptive retreat during the Battle of Hastings, ultimately securing the English throne. This victory not only altered the course of English history, but also introduced extensive French linguistic influence into the English language. William's victory meant that England would henceforth be ruled by an oppressive foreign aristocracy, which in turn would influence the entire ecclesiastical and political institutions of Christendom. Fire. Israel's preemptive strike against the Arab world, June 5-10, 1967. In 1967, Israel launched a preemptive strike against Egypt, Syria, and Jordan, reshaping the Middle East. This strike was the outcome of tensions arising due to the closing of a shipping channel vital to Israeli interests and the fear of Palestinian guerrilla attacks. Over 20,000 lives were destroyed, mostly by Arabs in the Six-Day War, displacing a third of Palestinians living in Gaza and the West Bank. The swift victory established Israel as a formidable military force, but its consequences, including territorial changes and displacement, continue to resonate in the region today, and that's where we call it a wrap on today's video on military strategies. We hope you enjoyed it, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.